This is the News 4 Rundown.
Welcome in, everybody. I'm Jim Hadley. It's Thursday, March 5th, and here's a look at what we're working on for you tonight. New leadership coming to the Department of Homeland Security. Kristi Noem is out after falling out of favor with President Trump. More on the move and who will replace her. Plus, it's a case that baffled even the most experienced surgeons. Coming up, the story behind one man's rare heart condition and the local surgeon who was able to treat him when no one else could. And we're talking all things cherry blossoms tonight when the National Cherry Park Service thinks we will reach peak bloom, and all the events you can take part in over the next month. But we begin with another rainy night here in our region. Not the cold rain we saw last night, but those showers are expected to fall throughout the evening. Storm Team 4 Chief Meteorologist Doug Kammerer joins us live now. Doug, on the bright side, we have some much nicer weather headed our way.
It'll get here eventually, Jim. It's just like we keep putting it off because tomorrow, another day where we deal with the clouds and the fog. But out there right now, we've got rain coming, and some of that rain's on the heavy side. No rain downtown just yet, but it is coming. Take a look at these numbers here. Temperatures of 50 degrees D.C., but near 70 down to the south. Richmond today at 80 degrees. The warm air is just to the south, the cold air to the north, and we're going to be on the colder side of things during the day tomorrow, although still a little bit above average. But here's what's happening right now. We've got a frontal boundary. It's a cold front that's working its way towards the area. Look at the thunderstorm activity back into parts of West Virginia, in towards western Maryland. We're seeing some pretty heavy showers right now into parts of Montgomery County, Howard County, Frederick County, and then back into Loudoun County, and a pretty good storm right now around Martinsburg, and then back to the west. A lot of lightning and a lot of thunder here, and all of these will continue to work their way through over the next couple of hours, I think, into the D.C. metro area around 9, 10, 11 o'clock. So, tracking those storms tonight. Watch out for dense fog again tomorrow morning. It was very dense this morning. Tough Friday forecast as far as the temperatures go. I'll talk about that. And then warming as we head into the weekend. We will hit 70 over the next couple of days, and maybe even higher than that, Jim. I've got the 10-day forecast coming up.
Look forward to that. See you in a bit. Doug, thank you. Developing now, the D.C. Police Department's second in command has had his police powers revoked. It comes amid an internal investigation into D.C. police crime stats, a story News 4's Paul Wagner has been following since last summer. He's breaking down the details tonight on what lies ahead for Assistant Chief Andre Wright.
Good evening. Until today, Andre Wright was working as the Executive Assistant Chief of Police, the second highest ranking member of the D.C. Police Department. Now, D.C. Police are confirming that Andre Wright and his wife, Natasha Wright, who's an inspector in the Human Resources section of the D.C. Police Department, have both been placed on administrative leave. Their police powers have been revoked. Now, multiple sources are telling Mark Seagraves, Ted Oberg, and myself the two were disciplined after inappropriate messages were allegedly found on Andre Wright's phone. Messages sources say have racial and sexual overtones. News 4 has learned Internal Affairs seized Wright's phone as part of the investigation into allegations crime numbers were being manipulated in the department. A story News 4 first reported in July. A story that led to two investigations by the House Oversight Committee and the Department of Justice. D.C. Police Chief Pamela Smith resigned soon after those reports came out, alleging that the chief had created a culture of fear in the department. Andre Wright's name was mentioned in those reports, and the D.C. Police Union called for Wright's immediate suspension and an internal affairs investigation. After Mayor Bowser named Jeffrey Carroll as interim chief of police, Carroll announced the inspector general would conduct an audit of the department's crime numbers. Now, it's unclear where that audit stands at this time, but we have some reporting that it's nearing its conclusion. Andre Wright has been on the police department since 1994. We reached out to Andre Wright for comment and have not heard back. That's the latest from Northwest D.C. Paul Wagner, News 4.
Thank you, Paul. Also developing tonight, Kristi Noem's tenure as Homeland Security Secretary will end at the end of this month. President Trump announced her firing today. Noem has faced heavy criticism from Democratic and some Republican lawmakers for her leadership of the department. NBC's Gabe Gutierrez has the latest from Washington.
President Trump announcing that Kristi Noem is out as Homeland Security Secretary on a social media post this afternoon, writing she has, quote, served us well and will take over a new role called Envoy for the Shield of the Americas. The president tapping Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin as the new DHS Secretary effective March 31st, although the position does require Senate confirmation. Trump spoke to Noem this afternoon about the job switch, according to two people familiar with the conversation. Noem has been at the forefront of the president's signature immigration policies, but her tenure has been rocky, especially since the fatal shootings of two U.S. citizens by federal agents in Minneapolis. In congressional hearings on Tuesday and Wednesday, lawmakers also grilled Noem on a $200 million ad campaign she oversaw. Noem on Tuesday told the Senate Judiciary Committee that the president approved of it, a claim the White House denied today. Her ouster marks the first time a cabinet secretary will step down in President Trump's second term. Gabe Gutierrez, NBC News, Washington.
For more insight now on this move from the White House, we're joined by Matt Dallek. He's a professor of political management at George Washington University. Matt, thanks for taking time with us. President Trump's first term was marked by record-setting turnover. It's been reported that he has a no scalps policy in his second term, refusing to yield to pressure from the press or criticism from Congress. What do you make of the difference here?
Well, the difference with Kristi Noem is that she became too kind of controversial to ignore. She contradicted Trump in that Senate testimony. She has been plagued by all kinds of scandals and scandalous reports. The two horrific shootings, obviously, in Minneapolis. ICE and immigration have become politically a dead weight for Trump, which was one of his strongest issues, and she was running point in many respects. So it just, was like water kind of building up on a ship, and eventually, he let her go. And as you said, she was the first of the second term to be cut loose.
Matt, Noem is not the first member of Trump's cabinet, though, to have lawmakers call for their resignation or termination. Could pushback from Capitol Hill force the president's hand when it comes to others, like, say, Pam Bondi?
Yeah. I'm sure that Trump has his eye on 3 or 4 of the most controversial people. Robert Kennedy, Pam Bondi, maybe Tulsi Gabbard, Pete Hegseth, although clearly probably not in the middle of the war. So there are a small number, and also Kash Patel, right, the director of the FBI.
Yes.
I mean, there were a small number of people who, many of them were not qualified. And I think a lot of senators knew they weren't qualified. They still voted for them anyway. And, I'd be surprised if we don't have at least one more cabinet secretary be pushed out, at least in the coming months or next year.
Tell us a little bit more about Senator Markwayne Mullin, his relationship with the president, and why he was the top pick to replace Noem.
Well, he fits the bill. He fits that role on TV. It's not the only reason, but he was a former wrestler, I think a UFC fighter. He is, a tough. And I think Trump likes that. He likes this sort of central casting idea. But apparently he was close to Trump. He would talk to him frequently. And most importantly, he was all in on Trump's Homeland Security and immigration policies, including the extremely aggressive, often illegal, out of control policies that we saw on the streets of Minneapolis and other American cities. So I think Trump felt like he is loyal, which of course has been hugely important, and one of his strongest defenders in the Senate. And then finally, I'd say, Oklahoma, it's a safe Republican seat,
yes.
Right? So he's not picking a senator whose seat they might lose.
Good point. Mullin, as we've mentioned, will still have to go through a confirmation hearing. Do you see that being a smooth process for him? His colleagues are all senators.
Yeah. Usually, when a senator is tapped for a cabinet post, they're going to do pretty well. I mean, they're going to get, in this case, I would imagine, every Republican senator, so he might sail through. And he may get some Democrats because, they know him, they've worked with him. They think he's probably a step up from his predecessor. So I would expect it to be certainly a much less controversial nominee than many of other Trump's cabinet appointments.
All right, George Washington University professor Matt Dallek, thanks so much for sharing your perspectives with us tonight. We appreciate it. Now to the latest on the war with Iran. Today, the House of Representatives joined the Senate in rejecting a war powers resolution to halt the attacks against Iran. 2 Republicans broke with President Trump in supporting the resolution, while 4 moderate Democrats opposed it. This vote comes as another wave of strikes hit Iran today as thousands of Americans try to flee the region. Though the president says America is doing well, Iran's foreign minister says all systems are working and the U.S. has not achieved its goals. The U.S. continues to bombard Iran, now 6 days into the war, with no sign of letting up. Iran's foreign minister pushed back today in an exclusive interview with NBC's Tom Yamas.
Was their goal. They came here for a regime change, perhaps. They came here for a rapid victory so they can, control everything. But they have failed. The system is working. The commanders have been replaced, and the supreme leader is going to be replaced soon.
The foreign minister says a new leader will be chosen according to the Iranian constitution and that there will be no winners in this war. Dozens of Americans are back here in our region tonight after struggling to get home from the Middle East. News 4's Jackie Benson is catching up with passengers at Dulles tonight. She'll have more on their uncertain journeys home coming up right here on News 4 at 11. Stick around. The Rundown will be right back after this short break. Well, it's finally starting to feel a bit like spring, and with that comes one of our favorite times here in Washington, cherry blossom season. We're getting closer to those beautiful trees blossoming. News 4's Tommy McFly and Storm Team 4 meteorologist Amelia Draper spent the day down at the tidal basin all by themselves as we learn more about the season ahead.
It's that time of year. We're in the pink. We're down at the tidal basin because we have peak bloom predictions.
Blossom watch is on, but it's going to be a while until we hit peak bloom.
Yeah, National Park Service said the 31st through April 1st. But let's get to some key dates, shall we? On March 19th, it's Stumpy's Pedal and Paddle race. They race the paddle boats right out here on the tidal basin. And this last year, George and Martha Washington in costume won. The Kite Festival is always really exciting too.
That.
Over on the Washington Monument side, locals come out. It's a total blast. Everyone has a great time. It's that season with that much excitement. And then it all wraps up on April 11th when we have the parade on Constitution Avenue. 33,000 people in the parade having a great time, making their way all up through. But let's not talk about the end. Let's get to the beginning because we're checking out the phases.
So we're not even in stage 1 yet. We have 6 stages to go through. So first off, we have Green Bud stage, and then we see with warmer weather, the stages progress more quickly. We have visible florets, extension of florets. We get to everybody's favorite, Tommy.
Elongated pedunculation.
Peduncle elongation.
Yes, that too.
Which we've all learned how to say. And
Most
then
of
we
us.
wait for peak bloom. First it's puffy white and then peak bloom, the 2 final stages. Now peak bloom is when 70% of the blossoms of these Yoshino cherry trees are open around the tidal basin, and it is absolutely breathtaking around here. You mentioned the Park Service peak bloom projection. It's all in good fun. They even gave me my pin. Now my peak bloom projection this year, March 30th through April 5th. So cheers to blossom season.
Love that.
Metro says it's ready to move big crowds for the National Cherry Blossom Festival. Today, Metro also unveiled special Smart Trip cards and the new vehicle wraps. Both will debut on March 20th. 1 train, 3 buses, and 1 Metro Access vehicle will be wrapped. The special edition Smart Trip cards will be available at 7 Metro station locations. You can find out where to pick yours up on Metro's website.
Only 1 train?
I know, just 1 train.
I love when they do that.
I do too.
They're really cool.
And you see them coming from all over when they're above ground. I love that. All right, Doug joins us now. We're talking about the weather, and after the winter we've had, we couldn't be more ready to see cherry blossoms.
Yeah, and you're talking about, of course, spring-like temperatures. You need that to get the cherry blossoms. And think about this. I mean, if Amelia, if we're right in that forecast, we're just over 3 weeks away. So we know we got to get warm sometime here. Let's show you what we got out there right now. Dry conditions around the city right now. Temperature-wise, we've fallen after a high today into the upper 50s. We're now at 50 degrees. Look at the wind. Still that northerly component and that east-northeast component. That's a chilly component to the wind. So we do have some cool numbers out there, 40s to the north, 60s to the south. We even hit the 70s down to the south today. Tracking the rain right now, coming through areas like Leesburg and through parts of Montgomery County. Back to the west, look at the thunderstorm activity that's ongoing here, moving in towards portions of Berkeley County, moving back towards Morgan County, over towards Hagerstown. Hagerstown, you're going to get hit pretty hard by this. Martinsburg as well. Nothing severe, but you'll hear the thunder, you'll see the lightning, and you'll see the very heavy rain that's making its way on through here. The wider picture showing what's happening. This is actually a cold front connected to this storm up here towards Buffalo. So on the north side, no, they got some snow up towards areas north of Boston. But for us, we are on the warm side of this. That's why we have the thunderstorm activity. But as this moves through, we'll go back into the colder side. This is the cold front that's working its way on through. D.C., I think, gets the storms in here around 9, 10, 11 o'clock tonight. And then look at the boundary here. This is the cold front. You can just follow the showers associated with it. These move to the south. So we'll see a shower tomorrow morning, maybe during the afternoon, as the warm front now. Again, you got a cold front first, goes down. Keeps us on the cooler side tomorrow, and then the warm front makes its way to the north. I'm hoping that warm front moves all the way through, and that would give us a much warmer day on Saturday. But take a look. I mean, this is why this is so difficult. Earlier this week, I projected tomorrow, fantastic Friday, high of 74. That's not going to happen now because of the fact that we've got that cold air. Watch what happens during the day tomorrow. High temperature, 48 in Philly. 81 in Wakefield, 85 in Roanoke. My goodness, we are right in the middle. So we're above average tomorrow, but way below where we could have been if that warm air would move up. Saturday starting off on a colder note, but I do think on Saturday we get into the southerly winds. This model going 78 for us. Wouldn't that feel nice? I'm going for high temperature around 73. And again, we're still worried about that. High temperature tomorrow getting up into the mid-50s. A lot of cloud cover and watching out for more fog tomorrow. We saw the fog earlier today. We could see it again tomorrow, too, at least early in the day. And then we'll see those numbers going up. 71 on Saturday, 68 on Sunday. Monday, high of 73. Here comes the heat. 78 on Tuesday. Wednesday is 80 degrees. And then behind that, a storm comes through and brings in the colder air again as we make our way back into the 50s. But it's 50s, not 30s and 40s. So some good news there, Jim, as we work our way through the next couple of days. We're ready for a warm-up here.
Boy, are we. Doug, thank you. We'll see you at 11.
Yeah.
A Maryland man was born with his heart on the opposite side of his chest. It was never a problem until a common condition forced him to seek treatment, creating a major challenge for doctors who had never seen a case like his. News 4's Erica Gonzalez shares the story of how a local surgeon was able to treat him, giving him peace of mind for years to come.
John Locke has a big heart that beats strong. It's just not where you'd expect to find it. He was born with a rare condition called dextrocardia. His heart is on the right side of his chest instead of the left.
For the doctors, they were listening to my chest and they heard funny echo.
For most of his life, it didn't affect him at all. No symptoms, no limitations. Locke even competed in triathlons.
Look, I was always an athlete. I always ran hard, cycled hard, did lots of different activities.
But 3 years ago, that changed. He developed atrial fibrillation, often called AFib, an irregular, sometimes rapid heartbeat that can make you feel fatigued, short of breath, or lightheaded. The episodes became more frequent and lasted longer. Locke admits it was scary, especially after the sudden loss of his brother.
My brother had died of a heart attack. I became very concerned about it at that point, even though my brother had never had AFib or anything like that. He was a perfectly healthy person.
Medication didn't fix the problem, and left untreated, AFib can lead to blood clots, stroke, and even heart failure. So Locke decided to seek treatment with a procedure called a catheter ablation. Doctors thread thin tubes through blood vessels into the heart and use heat or cold energy to create tiny scars. Those scars block the abnormal electrical signals that cause the irregular rhythm. But when doctors in Florida began the procedure, they ran into a problem.
When they got in there, they realized I had other differences. I had an extra vein or something, that basically created a problem for them being able to get to the atriums to be able to do the ablations.
The challenge with dextrocardia is it makes treating atrial fibrillation with catheters difficult, effectively almost impossible.
Dr. Christian Schultz is a cardiac surgeon at MedStar Washington Hospital Center here in D.C. and took on the challenging task of repairing John's heart when no one else could. He performed the 7-hour procedure called hybrid atrial fibrillation convergent therapy that combines two techniques, treating the heart from both the inside and the outside to block the abnormal signals causing the irregular heartbeat. Dr. Schultz says it's not something you study in a textbook because Locke's anatomy is so different than ours, essentially a mirror image of what's normal.
What was most important for me was just the CT, the 3D reconstruction, so I could see his anatomy in order to understand kind of what my approach would be and what needed to be done. Just looking at all the details and kind of generating a map in my head of how I would get there and what needed to be done was critically important.
Dr. Schultz has performed thousands of ablations throughout his career, but Locke was his first patient with dextrocardia. He says the procedure was a success. Now, 61 years old, Locke no longer needs heart medication and says he's back to doing what he loves and grateful for time with his grandkids.
Today I'm sitting here feeling great. I haven't had AFib since the procedure, and I'm living my normal life. My grandkids are the best, and so being able to spend time with them and grow up with them, and become a young person again, able to see the world in a different way.
They're doing pretty amazing things at Washington MedStar Hospital. That was Erica Gonzalez reporting. Doctors say if you notice an irregular heartbeat, don't ignore it. Early treatment can make all the difference. The News 4 Rundown will be right back, and here's a look at what's coming up after the break.
While we're waiting and thinking and getting ready for peak bloom, which is not even close to quite there yet, a big weekend is on the way. St. Patrick's Day celebrations, Holiday celebrations, bringing all the color to the district, and a free moment for the kiddos in Northeast D.C. that you're not going to want to miss. I'm Tommy McFly. It's all on the way in the weekend scene. Plenty of excitement budding this weekend around the tidal basin as we get ready for peak bloom. Also, we spring forward this weekend too. But while we wait for this, a lot going on, like the Ballyshaners St. Patrick's Day Parade stepping off Saturday noon from a new route in Old Town Alexandria off of Asaph Street. If green beer is not enough color for you, well, hang on. We've got DC's DuPont Circle getting ready for the Holly Festival.
It is my delight and our delight to bring a little slice of the Indian culture to DuPont every year. A lot of celebration, a lot of fun. It is throwing color powders on each other, hugging each other, eating good food.
About that powder, what is it?
Powder is basically usually dried flowers, organic, so then obviously it does not harm the environment or the people around. So I would suggest two things. Wear white, but do not wear your favorite white because you may have to discard it after the event. And secondly, this probably would be the best time to practice some Bollywood hook steps because we have a wonderful DJ coming.
Traditional dancers, that powder, and a live DJ with the Embassy of India in DuPont Circle. Maybe you want to do something with the kiddos. Atlas Performing Arts Center on H Street Northeast has another free family day on Saturday starting at 10, this time with the Great Zucchini. If you know, you know. Plenty of International Women's Day events going on too, like the 8th annual Her Story 5K. That run kicks off Saturday morning early at Freedom Plaza. And while we're at it, while we're down here, scan the QR code because the Weekend Scene newsletter goes out every single Wednesday. And this is probably a great way for you to be up to date on all of the cherry blossom things and all of the things going on as we are getting into spring. I'm Tommy McFly. Have an awesome weekend.
Well, he's dressed the part anyway. Here it comes. That's going to do it for us. News 4 Rundown on this Thursday night. We'll be right back here at 11. We hope to see you then. Have a good night, everybody.